Before this story unfolds, hit that like button and subscribe to see how one moment of humanity can change everything. This is a true story that will restore your faith in people. You don't want to miss what happens next. A 7-year-old girl with pigtails stood in the middle of a Brooklyn street on a cold February morning. She was barefoot, shaking, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Above her, 3 men in expensive suits were arguing about money. Guns were visible under their jackets. One of them was pointing at a woman lying on the ground, the girl's mother. The little girl walked straight toward the most dangerous man on that street. The man everyone knew as Vincenzo, the mafia boss who had killed dozens of people. The man who ruled this neighborhood with an iron fist and a loaded gun. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face and said 5 words that would change everything. "Please don't hurt my mom." What happened next shocked the entire neighborhood so badly that people still talk about it 20 years later. And it proves that even the darkest hearts can be touched by innocence. Why this works ***, you're immediately hooked by a contradiction. A ruthless criminal and a helpless child. Danger and innocence colliding. What could possibly come next? Brooklyn, 1998, Williamsburg neighborhood. The neighborhood was controlled by organized crime. Not the kind you saw in movies. This was real, brutal, and it touched every street corner. Vincenzo Moretti had run the territory for 12 years. He was 52 years old, with gray hair and cold, calculating eyes. He'd built his empire on protection rackets, loan sharking, and violence. Lots of violence. People were terrified of him. Shop owners paid him protection money. Business owners made sure Vincenzo got his cut. And anyone who refused? Well, they learned to regret it very quickly. But there was one thing people didn't know about Vincenzo. He had a code. He wouldn't hurt children. He wouldn't harm women who weren't involved in the business. And he would never kill someone who couldn't fight back. Most people in the neighborhood never knew about this code because Vincenzo didn't advertise it. His reputation was built on the fear that he might do anything. The mystery was more powerful than the truth. Sarah's story. Sarah Martinez was a single mother trying to survive in a dangerous neighborhood. She was 31 years old, with warm brown eyes and a smile that made people feel safe around her. She worked 2 jobs, one at a grocery store and one cleaning offices at night, just to keep her and her 7-year-old daughter, Emma, alive. Emma had her mother's warm smile and her mother's gentle heart. She was the kind of child who noticed when people were sad. She would draw pictures to give to strangers. She believed the best in people. Sarah had taught her that kindness mattered, even in a neighborhood where kindness could be dangerous. They lived in a small apartment above a dry cleaning business. The rent was cheap, which was the only reason they could afford it. Every day, Sarah worried about money. Every night, she lay awake thinking about how to give Emma a better life. What Sarah didn't know was that her brother, Miguel, had made a very dangerous deal. The debt that couldn't be paid. Miguel had borrowed money from Vincenzo's organization. $5,000. A small amount by most standards, but in their neighborhood, that kind of debt was a death sentence if you couldn't pay it back. Miguel promised he would repay the money in 3 months. He had a job lined up in construction. He was sure he could make enough money. 3 months came and went. Miguel lost the job. He couldn't find other work. And Vincenzo's men came looking for their money. Miguel ran. He disappeared, leaving Sarah to face the consequences. One morning, early February, Vincenzo's enforcement team showed up at the dry cleaning business where Sarah worked. There were 3 of them. Large men. Serious men. The kind of men who meant business. They told Sarah that her brother owed money. They told her that the debt now belonged to her family. They gave her 1 week to find $5,000, plus an additional $5,000 in interest. $10,000. Money she could never raise. Sarah went home that night terrified. She sat on the edge of her bed and cried silently, trying not to let Emma hear. Emma heard anyway. The day everything changed. The next morning, Sarah made a decision that most people would consider reckless. But she was desperate. She went to find Vincenzo herself. It was 7 in the morning. She'd taken Emma with her because she had no one to watch her. They walked through the cold streets of Williamsburg. Their breath made clouds in the freezing air. They found Vincenzo standing outside a coffee shop on Bedford Avenue. He was talking to two men about business. He had a coffee in his hand. He looked ordinary, almost peaceful. Sarah walked up to him. Her entire body was shaking, not just from the cold. "Vincenzo," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. He turned. His eyes locked onto hers. In that moment, Sarah realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Looking into those eyes was like looking into a void. "I'm Sarah Martinez," she continued. "My brother Miguel borrowed money from you. He's gone now, but I want to make a deal." Vincenzo stared at her without saying anything. His two associates moved their hands closer to their guns, but Vincenzo raised a hand to stop them. "What kind of deal?" he finally asked. "I'll work for you," Sarah said. "I'll do anything. Clean your places. Manage your money. Whatever you need. I'll work until the debt is paid. But please, please don't hurt my family." Vincenzo set down his coffee. He looked at Emma for the first time. Emma was holding her mother's hand, her big eyes wide with fear, looking up at the scary man. Something changed in Vincenzo's expression. Just for a moment. Something softened. "You should go home," he said to Sarah. "Forget about this." "I can't," Sarah replied. "You'll hurt people I love." Vincenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded at his men, and they walked away, leaving him alone with Sarah and Emma. "Come," he said. "Let's talk." The deal. They went to a restaurant that Vincenzo owned. The back room. Private. Safe from prying eyes. Sarah sat across from Vincenzo at a small table. Emma sat next to her mother, holding her hand. "You understand what you're asking?" Vincenzo said. His voice was calm, but it carried weight. "If you work for me, you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation. People who work for me sometimes get hurt." "I understand," Sarah said. "And you have a daughter. You'd be putting her at risk too." "If I don't do this, my whole family is at risk," Sarah replied. "At least this way, I'm trying to protect them." Vincenzo looked at Emma again. The little girl stared back at him with an expression that was almost ancient in its sadness. Like she understood the weight of adult problems but couldn't do anything about them. "How long have you been her mother?" Vincenzo asked Emma suddenly. Emma was confused by the question, but she answered honestly, the way children do. "My whole life," she said softly. Vincenzo smiled. "Just barely. Just enough to show that he was human." "Your mother is very brave," he told Emma. "She came here to protect you. That takes courage." Emma nodded and looked up at her mother with love and fear mixed together. Vincenzo stood up. "Sarah Martinez, you will work for me. You will manage the accounting for 3 of my legitimate businesses. You will keep track of numbers. You will work from an office, not on the streets. Your daughter will go to school. You will pick her up every day at 3 o'clock. Sarah felt tears of relief starting to come. In return, Vincenzo continued, "I will forgive your brother's debt. All of it. The original amount and the interest. It's gone. Forgotten." Sarah gasped. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "But understand this," Vincenzo said, his voice turning cold again. "If you tell anyone what you do for me, if you go to the police, if you betray me in any way, then everything I just promised ends. The debt comes back. And this time, it will be collected." "I understand," Sarah whispered. "You will start on Monday," Vincenzo said. "You'll work 5 days a week. You'll make enough money to support you and your daughter comfortably. And you'll be safe in this neighborhood because everyone will know you work for me." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Your brother," he said without turning around. "If he ever comes back, tell him he's lucky. Tell him his sister has a good heart. Tell him he owes her his life." The first day of work. Monday morning came. Sarah reported to an office in a building that Vincenzo owned. Her boss was a woman named Donna. She was 4 to 5, tough, smart, and kind in a way that Vincenzo wasn't. Donna had worked for Vincenzo for 20 years. She knew all his secrets. "Don't be afraid," Donna told Sarah on the first day. "Vincenzo doesn't hurt people who are loyal to him. And he respects people who work hard. Just do your job, keep your mouth shut, and you'll be fine. Sarah worked hard. She was good with numbers. She noticed patterns in the accounting that even Donna had missed. She reorganized the system so everything was cleaner, more efficient, harder to trace if anyone was looking. Vincenzo noticed. After 3 weeks, he called her into his office. "You're good at this," he said. "Better than good. Why do you work in a grocery store before? You're too smart for that." "I didn't have choices," Sarah said honestly. "I needed any job that would hire me." "You have choices now," Vincenzo replied. "And your choice was a good one." The whispers. The neighborhood noticed the change almost immediately. Sarah was no longer terrified walking down the street. When people saw her, they knew she was protected. She was under Vincenzo's umbrella now. Other women in the neighborhood started to look at her differently. Some with envy, some with fear, some with hope. Because if Sarah, a single mother with nothing, could negotiate with Vincenzo and survive, maybe there was a way out for them too. Emma noticed the change too. She was still afraid of Vincenzo, but she could see that he kept her mother safe. And she noticed something else. Sometimes Vincenzo was nice. He would sometimes give Emma candy when she was at the office picking up her mother. Once, he gave Emma a book, a beautiful illustrated version of Charlotte's Web. Emma loved that book. "A girl should read about friendship," Vincenzo told Sarah. "Good friendships. Not the kind that betray you." The tension builds. But not everyone in the neighborhood was happy about this situation. There was a man named Frank who worked for another crime family. He saw Vincenzo protecting Sarah and decided it was an opportunity. Frank started spreading rumors that Sarah was Vincenzo's lover. He suggested that she'd slept her way into her job. He made crude jokes about her in the bars and on the street corners. Sarah heard the rumors. She wanted to die from shame. She thought about quitting, about leaving the neighborhood entirely, but she didn't. Instead, she went directly to Vincenzo and told him what was being said. Vincenzo listened. His jaw tightened. "Frank," he said quietly. "Yes, I know Frank." The next day, Frank was found sitting on a park bench. He was alive, but both his arms were broken. His message was clear. Don't disrespect people under Vincenzo's protection. Frank never came back to the neighborhood. The moment of crisis. 3 months into Sarah's employment, something happened that changed everything again. Sarah's mother had a heart attack. A serious one. She was in the hospital, and Sarah needed to be there with her constantly. Sarah asked Vincenzo if she could take time off. She was terrified of the answer. "How much time do you need?" Vincenzo asked. "I don't know," Sarah said honestly. "My mother might die. I need to be there." Vincenzo nodded. "Take what you need. Your job will be here when you come back." "And Sarah?" "Yes. Your mother will have the best doctors in the city. I'll pay for everything. Don't worry about money. Worry about your family." Sarah's mother survived. And when she was released from the hospital, Vincenzo had paid for a private nurse to come to her home every day for a month. Sarah asked him why he did it. "Because you showed me respect by asking," he said. "And because family matters. Even when you're in my business, family still matters more than anything else." 5 years later, Sarah had been working for Vincenzo for 5 years. She was no longer afraid of him. She respected him. And somewhere along the way, something unexpected happened. Vincenzo started listening to her advice. Not just about accounting, but about everything. When other members of his organization wanted to push drugs into schools, Sarah told him it was wrong. Vincenzo shut down that operation immediately. When young criminals wanted to use more violence to expand territory, Sarah suggested they instead invest in legitimate businesses. Vincenzo took the suggestion seriously. Slowly, the criminal empire started to shift. It was still criminal, still dangerous, but it was changing. One day, Vincenzo called Sarah into his office. Emma was waiting in the next room, doing homework. She was 12 now. Smart. Kind. Everything her mother had hoped she'd become. "I'm dying," Vincenzo said simply. Sarah went pale. "What?" Cancer, he continued. I have maybe a year. 2 if I'm lucky. Sarah didn't know what to say. I want to do something important before I die, Vincenzo said. I've hurt a lot of people in my life. I've done terrible things. I can't undo that. But maybe I can change what comes after. He stood up and walked to the window. I'm going to the FBI. I'm going to tell them everything. Every crime. Every operation. Every person involved. I'm going to give them enough information to dismantle my entire organization. Sarah's heart started racing. Why? They'll put you in prison. I'm dying anyway, Vincenzo said. At least this way, my death means something. At least this way, I stop hurting people. What about? Sarah hesitated. What about the people who work for you? What about the protection deals? What about? I'll make arrangements, Vincenzo interrupted. You'll be protected. I'll make sure that whoever takes over the government investigation keeps you safe. I'll explain to them what you've done, how you've tried to steer me away from the worst crimes. I'll tell them you're not really one of us. The FBI investigation. What Vincenzo did shocked the entire city. A notorious mob boss, one of the most dangerous men in New York, walked into an FBI field office and confessed to dozens of crimes. He gave evidence. He named names. He provided documentation. He told them where weapons were hidden. He explained the entire structure of the criminal organization. The news made national headlines. But Vincenzo also made sure to tell the FBI about Sarah. He explained that she was not a criminal, that she'd been trying to influence him toward better choices, that she deserved protection and immunity. The FBI listened. They saw that Sarah's accounting records actually showed her attempts to stop certain criminal activities. They saw that she'd been careful to separate herself from the worst operations. Sarah was offered immunity in exchange for her testimony. She accepted. The consequences. In the weeks that followed, Vincenzo's entire empire crumbled. Arrests were made. Criminal operations shut down. Money was seized. Legitimate businesses were investigated. But something unexpected happened in the neighborhood. The people who lived there realized something. The person who had hurt them the most was also the person willing to face justice for those crimes. Vincenzo had changed. Not enough to undo the past, but enough to try. In the end, Vincenzo was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. He was dying, so he would never serve that time. He died 8 months later in a federal prison hospital. On the day of his funeral, hundreds of people attended. Not because they loved him, but because they wanted to acknowledge that he'd finally done something right. Sarah's new life. Sarah left the neighborhood. She used her skills to start a legitimate bookkeeping business. She became successful. She was able to send Emma to college. Emma became a social worker, helping people in dangerous neighborhoods. She said it was because of what she learned growing up, watching her mother navigate impossible situations with courage. Years later, when Emma was grown, she wrote a book about her experiences. The book became a bestseller. It was called The Girl Who Asked the Mafia Boss for Kindness. In the book, Emma wrote, I learned that people are complicated. Even the most dangerous people can change. Even the darkest hearts can be touched by innocence. My mother taught me that when you treat people with dignity and respect, sometimes they surprise you by becoming better. What this story really teaches us. This story is not about organized crime. It's not about celebrating criminals or making them seem romantic. This story is about something much more important. The power of human dignity and the possibility of redemption. Here's what happened in this story. Sarah didn't treat Vincenzo like a monster. She was terrified of him. Yes, but she approached him as a human being. She explained her situation. She negotiated. She treated him with respect. Vincenzo responded to that dignity. He had a code. He believed in rules. And when Sarah approached him respectfully, those parts of his character, the parts that weren't criminal, responded. Emma's innocence reminded Vincenzo of what mattered most. A child's simple love for her mother. A child's hope that people could be good. That affected him in ways that nothing else could. Sarah used her position to influence Vincenzo toward better choices. She didn't preach to him. She didn't judge him. She simply suggested better ways. And he listened. The universal message. This story shows us something that applies to every single one of us. Everyone is capable of change. Everyone has the capacity for kindness. Everyone has parts of their character that respond to respect and dignity. That doesn't mean we should trust dangerous people. It doesn't mean we should ignore crimes. It means we should remember that the person doing the crime is still a person. When we treat people with dignity, even difficult people, even people who've done wrong, sometimes they become better. Not always, but sometimes. Vincenzo died. He paid for his crimes. But he also did something meaningful with the end of his life. He stopped hurting people. He helped justice happen. That's redemption. Not forgiveness. Not excusing what he'd done. But redemption, the choice to stop doing harm and to help repair some of the damage. What this means for us today. In our modern world, we often forget that people are complicated. We categorize people as good or bad. We don't see the person who made bad choices but wants to change. We don't recognize the human being underneath the criminal record. Sarah's story teaches us to see the humanity first, to approach difficult situations with respect and dignity, to remember that how we treat people matters. It teaches us that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is refuse to be afraid, to look at danger in the eye and say, I see you. You're human. I'm going to talk to you like a human. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the person listening chooses to become better. Emma's final message in her book was this: people contain multitudes. They're not just good or bad. They're complicated and contradictory and capable of change. If my mother had given up hope that Vincenzo could be better, she might have died in poverty. Instead, she treated him with dignity, and it changed our lives. What could we all do differently if we approached every difficult person as if they were capable of becoming better? That's the real lesson. Not that we should trust criminals. Not that crime is okay. But that redemption is possible. Change is possible. And sometimes, one act of courage, one moment of dignity, one child's innocent plea, can start a chain reaction that changes everything. Final call to action. This story touched your heart for a reason. Because it reminds us that humanity still exists in the most unlikely places. If this video showed you that change is possible, that redemption matters, and that treating people with dignity might be the most powerful thing we can do, like this video right now and subscribe to see more stories that restore your faith in humanity. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that challenges what you think about people, about crime, about redemption, and about the power of a single act of courage. Leave a comment below. Have you ever seen someone change in a way that surprised you? Have you ever treated someone with respect and dignity and watched them respond by becoming better? Share your story. Your experience might inspire someone else to believe in redemption too. Because this is what we need in the world. Stories that remind us we're all capable of better choices. Stories that show us the power of treating each other with dignity. Stories that prove that even in the darkest places, light can break through. Sarah showed Vincenzo dignity. Emma showed him innocence. And Vincenzo responded by changing his life and facing justice. What if we all approached difficult people that way? What if we all remembered that everyone is human? What if we all believed in the possibility of redemption? That's the real story. Not just what happened on that Brooklyn street, but what could happen everywhere if we treated each other that way. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video where we continue exploring the stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Stay kind, stay brave, and never stop believing that people can change. Now go like and subscribe.